Welcome to Diary of a Sheep Dairy Farmer, where we talk all things dairy sheep, from breeding to lambing to milking and everything in between and outside. I'm your host, Becca, owner, operator, and glorified farmhand of Hidden Hollow Sheep Dairy. Welcome back, guys, to another day of dairy sheep. As promised, today we are talking about older ewes. How old is too old? Like most people, I have a hard time getting rid of my older, mature ewes who have been with me from the start. And I don't have trouble getting rid of them because people don't want older, mature ewes. I have trouble getting rid of them because I can't bear to part with them. These are the ones I can count on to be good moms. They will easily take a foster lamb. They are the ones that will produce the most milk for me and have the best attitudes. They're the ones I am most attached to. They are the ones who have the least issues during lambing and are the ones who will try not to kill me on the milking stand. I have tried to record this about 3 times already, and I get emotional each time because I do love my sheep. And you would think after doing this for 10 years, it would get easier when you lose a sheep, but it does not. Even though some of these ewes that I talk about today have been gone for a while, it still hurts because you do get very emotionally, at least I do. Maybe there are people out there that don't get quite as attached to their animals as I do, but there are some that just worm their way into your heart, and you do have a hard time getting over their loss. And over the years, I have had a few that have been my standby best ewes. They are the ones who they've lived their life out on my farm. Maybe they no longer produced like they used to, so they became babysitters for other lambs. That was Cloud. If you watch my YouTube, you have heard me talk about her daughter, Cascade. Cascade gave me my last lambs of the spring season. She gave me twins, and one was a girl, and I am over the moon to be able to continue with those genetics in my flock. Cascade has a wonky back leg, and she will never leave my farm. But we will get to her in a second. Let's talk about her mom, Cloud. Cloud had the sweetest personality. It was as if she knew you were having a bad day, and she would wait by the fence for me to show up and spend as much time letting me love on her as I wanted. She was never pushy or cranky. She was a milky son of a gun who I could always count on to be calm on the milk stand and give me as much milk as she could produce. When she no longer produced enough milk for her lambs and for me, I decided to stop milking her and just let her produce lambs. She raised lambs, and I no longer milked her. We were both happy because I still got babies from her that would continue her milking line, and she still got to raise babies. And then when she no longer could produce lambs, but she still loved lambs, and it was nothing to see her out in the pasture surrounded by the other ewes' lambs. And this was long before we had eagle issues, and we could no longer lamb out on pasture or put our ewes and lambs out on pasture. And those lambs would follow her as if they were her mom, which was great for getting them gentled, as they had no fear of me when Cloud was around. We did lose her several years ago, and in her years with me, she only gave me 2 daughters. One died not long after birth, but I have her last daughter, and it is only by fluke that I even have her. Cascade got caught in some fencing and broke her leg, which is why she has a wonky leg. She came in with the flock one afternoon, and I was able to separate her out and put her in a paddock, and I cannot put a sheep down. It is my husband's job on the farm to do that. And so I had her separated out for him to deal with when he got home, and that little stinker busted through the fence and found her way out back with the rest of the flock. I looked for her. We looked for 3 days for her. We couldn't find her. She disappeared. Gone. Completely gone. I figured she had just gone off somewhere to die. I took her off my sheep list, and I just, I wrote it up to one of those mishaps on the farm. And so you can imagine my surprise when that fall, when we brought the flock in to go through the pre-breeding checks, and there was Cascade. Her leg was at a crooked angle, fully healed, cosmetically ugly, but she was there, and she was alive, and I have never cried over a sheep like I did that one when she came home. So, yeah, I thought I had lost that whole breeding line, but there she was. And now I have daughters from her that are healthy and carrying on her amazing milking genetics. So Cloud was 4 when I bought her, and I only had her for 4 years, so she was not that old when she died. And I have a ewe this year who has given me some of my best milking ewes. She is not the best milker herself, but her offspring have been. She is a 2017 ewe that went downhill this year, and I'm not really sure why. Her milk supply just isn't that great. She could barely supply 1 lamb, much less the 2 she had. And then she couldn't even handle that 1 lamb that I left on her. And I think it had to do with the sneakers in the barn. We have a couple lambs that know that they can sneak milk from any of the ewes, this ewe being one of them, which has always made her a great foster mom. We could put any lamb on her and she would take it, no questions asked. However, that also made it so she didn't have enough milk left for her lamb this year. So odds are she will be retired this year. I don't think I will sell her. We'll see how she bounces back after her time out on good pasture this summer, and then decide what plans are. If she will be bred again, or if she'll just stick around and be a lawn ornament like a couple of my other sheep are. My husband doesn't like it, but oh well. They're my sheep, not his. And she is only 7, which again doesn't seem that old. I think she was going on 2 when I bought her, and I know for sure she'd been lambed out once when I bought her. And that is another reason why I like to wait until ewes are a little older to have their first lambs. It's less wear and tear on their bodies at a young age, and they don't wear out near as soon. So then we have my old girl, and I do mean old. Tansy is 10 this year, and she gave me a set of twins in April. Tansy is one of those sheep that will never leave my farm. She is what is called a leader sheep. If you've ever dealt with Icelandic sheep, you'll know what I mean. For those of you who don't, to put it in the simplest of terms, a leader sheep is a sheep that will walk ahead and lead the rest of the flock. Yes, there are other distinguishing characteristics if you dive deeper into it, but Tansy is only half Icelandic, so for her to have that trait is pretty incredible. She is the one who I can call and will bring the flock to me. She is worth her weight in gold for that aspect alone. She does not have the biggest bag, nor give me a gallon a day by any means, but she is a couple quarts a day milker, and honestly, I don't usually milk her. I let her raise lambs, and I keep all her girl lambs because, 1, their disposition is to die for. Her lambs will not give you the time of day, and then one day, when they hit about a year old, they are your best friend. I have 3 of her daughters now, and she just gave me another girl, this lambing. I lost 1 last year at lambing, and they are all super friendly, but only on their terms, which is typical of Icelandics. I keep that Icelandic blood in my flock, basically for durability. When we started out, we had someone tell us that the East Frisian is the Holstein of the dairy sheep world. They are born looking to die. We already had our Icelandic sheep and decided to cross them with the East Frisian ewes we bought just to keep some hardiness to them. And it seems to work. We don't have the health issues with our lambs that I see other dairy farms experience. The second reason is that I love my Icelandics, but They seem to be able to get through any kind of closed gate like no other and are always out. So crossing them with the dairy sheep keeps them in my flock without me having purebreds that like to wander. Tansy does raise the best lambs and is in amazing health for being 10 years old. When she decides she is done having lambs, she will go out to pasture and enjoy her golden years. There has never been a question on what will happen to her when she can no longer have lambs. I have always looked to my sheep to tell me when they are done. Done milking, done lambing, done with life. I know of one sheep dairy that doesn't keep anything over the age of 6. I know of another that keeps their ewes until they're 8. And then I know there are homesteaders who have 2 or 3 ewes and keep them for the lifetime of the ewe. There is no wrong age. Come fall, depending on what Tansy looks like coming off summer pasture, I may or may not breed her. She will let me know if she is ready or not. So will the rest of my sheep. So how old is too old? What do you need to be looking for when you decide to stop breeding your sheep? You need to be looking at the health of your sheep. You need to be looking, are you still able to milk that sheep? Is she only able to give enough milk to raise her lambs, or will she give enough milk for you as well? Is her body condition score good enough to carry lambs? Do you feel safe enough to breed her again? If the answer is no to any of those questions, I would not consider breeding a ewe. And maybe she's not an old one. Maybe she just is not in good health and you need to take a year off and get that ewe back in better shape. I have had some of those too, where they ended up having triplets and I left those triplets on those ewes, and then they went out to summer pasture and I left the triplets on them, and they went to fall pasture and I left the triplets on them, and they sucked mom down to where she was in very poor health. Her body condition score was very, very poor, and I should have pulled those lambs a lot sooner than I did to let mom recuperate. But I either forgot that I left triplets on her, or they got lost in the mix, and this was long before I had a better system than I do now. And so you need to know your sheep. You need to keep an eye on your sheep and assess them. We check our sheep before we breed them every year. I don't always manage it, but I try to assess them after breeding every year. And then I do keep an eye on them while they're out on pasture all throughout the summer and all throughout the winter, just to make sure nobody is going downhill, or, if they've gotten some kind of bug, or if they have, is there an infection that I didn't catch, or, did they get sick? All these little things add up. Okay, guys, I have been very lax about posting on my Instagram for the podcast. I hope to take some time this week to update and interact more. You would think that for as much social media as I do, I would be more on it, but in all honesty, I spend less than 3 hours across my platform on any given day. I need to do better about interacting and posting. And now that lambing is done, the election is done, and summer is here, I will hopefully have some free time between hay. As always, I appreciate you being here, and thank you for your support. I would be ever so grateful if you would leave a review or share this podcast with your dairy sheep loving friends. Anything to get the word out. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at Diary of a Sheep Dairy Farmer. And if you want to follow the chaos around the farm, you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Hidden Hollow Sheep Dairy. If there are any topics you are interested in, or if you are interested in being a guest on the podcast, please let me know. Thanks for being here, guys. We'll talk to you next week.